Have you ever heard someone telling a falsehood that appeared too ridiculous? Imagine discovering a mark on your significant other's neck that they say is simply a harmless bee bite. However, you can't eliminate the instinct that something is wrong. What if something far more significant is revealed by just one small lie? What happens if a DNA test completely upends your life? One revelation in this novel alters everything, and things aren't always what they appear. Let's explore the truth behind the lies. I can still clearly recall my first encounter with Sarah. I had just joined the varsity baseball team in the latter part of my freshman year of high school. As a freshman, I started as a second baseman, which was important. Popularity and attention followed, but I remained totally focused on the game. After that, our baseball team played the softball team in a charity game to raise money for the children's hospital. I first saw Sarah at that point. She was her team's first baseman, and I couldn't help but notice how gorgeous she was. Many of my teammates were chatting about her and attempting to gain her number, but I had no interest in that. My goal was to win the game. I ended up on first base during the game after hitting a single where Sarah was playing. At the time, I didn't give it much thought and didn't even recognize her during the pregame meeting to go over the rules or after the game. That apparently got her attention. She subsequently informed me that she was interested because I was the only guy who didn't approach her out of all the others who attempted to do so. Sarah asked me to prom a few weeks after the game. Her best buddy, a junior, had given her tickets even though she didn't want to go. Since I wasn't the kind to decline a dance, I accepted. I had no idea how drastically things would shift that night. We were inseparable for the remainder of our freshman year and the summer after losing our virginity to one another that night. We discovered every conceivable location to sneak away and spend time together, including school closets, quiet areas on campus, and any other place where we could be by ourselves. I was more than willing to keep up with Sarah's high sexual desire. In retrospect, what drew us together was our physical solid bond and the fact that I didn't pursue her as the other males did. Moments like our first prom, skipping school to spend time together, dining at various restaurants, exchanging promise rings that summer, and, of course, the charity game where we initially met all helped to cement our love. It wasn't always easy sailing, though. Many men would text Sarah since she was so popular. She permanently blocked numbers, told me she just wanted me, and handled it nicely. She even gave me the PIN to her phone because she was honest and forthright. She made it evident that she was devoted to me and detested the thought of cheating. Although she didn't need this reassurance, it was comforting to know that she did. We took many of the same classes in high school and did quite well. Everyone thought we were the ideal pair since we were inseparable, collaborated on group projects, and engaged in activities together. I made it to a couple of her softball games whenever possible, and Sarah came to as many of my baseball games as she could. She recognized the intensity of my baseball devotion. Thanks to cooperation between our school and a nearby college, students with a GPA of 3.5 or above were eligible for free tuition. With a GPA of 4.0, I was eligible for numerous scholarships. I received around $1,800 a semester from fellowships when I started college. Sarah and I chose to attend the same university to avoid having to worry about student loans. I proposed to her during our graduation ceremony, and we had a comfortable college experience. Our relatives and friends were ecstatic because it was a huge thing. Once she graduated, I made sure Sarah had the wedding of her dreams. As a lawyer dealing with insurance issues, I was already financially secure. For the first 3 years of our marriage, I was the only provider for Sarah, who concentrated on completing her cosmetics degree and selling goods online through her floral shop. I even converted our garage into a salon space for her business because she liked staying home. We decided to have children around the 6th year of our marriage. Isaiah, our firstborn, transformed my life. Abigail, our daughter, was born just 18 months later. After the taxing experience of Isaiah's birth, Sarah decided she only wanted 2 children, and life was good. We were financially secure. As a family of 4, we adapted to our new routine after she had her tubes tied. Now fast forward to the present. Our children are 5 and 8 years old, and Sarah and I are 35 years old. Sarah's conduct has changed a bit lately, I've observed. She began arriving home late and leaving the kids with friends more frequently. At first, I thought she was merely preoccupied with appointments at the salon, but it appeared that there was more involved. Our already sluggish sexual life became nearly non-existent. Sarah seemed angry about it, but I wanted to spend a weekend with her alone to make up for it. Then things became worse. Sarah began arriving home late, occasionally with a hickey in her neck. She said they were from bee stings when I questioned her about them. I first trusted her. Despite my lack of knowledge about gardening and bee behavior, I had a gut feeling that something needed to be corrected. I had never considered the possibility of her cheating until now because she had always been faithful. A sense of worry crept in as I tried to piece together these changes, the late nights, the mysterious hickeys, and her aloof demeanor. Even though I wanted to believe her, the contradictions were becoming more difficult to ignore. The moment had come to examine the situation more closely. A friend advised me to take the kids out for a drive and check in on her after work. To make yourself less available, try varying your schedule by arriving home at odd hours, staying late at work, etc. Your erratic actions will make her adjust. Or you might just say, "Something's not sitting right with me." The hickeys, the staying out late, the lack of intimacy. And ask her for her phone, as you may have done immediately after reading this. Her response will reveal a lot, and may include statements like, "That's an invasion of my privacy response. I understand that, but your reactions warrant my invasion. Do you believe this marriage isn't worth saving?" If she says no, you have your answer and can begin the process of getting a divorce. "I think you're having an affair, so I'd like to go through your phone with you right now." Sit with her and carefully browse through her phone if she hands it to you. Ensure you know how to properly examine the contents, check the recently erased messages, and go through all the apps. The truth was revealed most terribly and unexpectedly imaginable. It all began when I observed behavioral shifts in Sarah. She had grown aloof, frequently going missing for extended periods and coming home late at night with flimsy justifications. Her expression changed from one of warmth and fondness to one of coldness and disinterest. Even though I knew she was allergic, she attempted to hide the mysterious hickeys on her neck as bee bites. I wanted to trust her, but I felt something wasn't right. I went to Reddit to get guidance and encouragement from people in my position. Many of people offered ideas for how to look into it, such as checking her phone, unexpectedly showing up at work, or even installing a sound recorder in her vehicle. In an attempt to allay or confirm my anxieties, I tried them all. However, nothing could have prepared me for the terrible truth that lay ahead. Sarah and my best friend Brandon sat me down earlier this evening after I had questioned her a lot and altered my behavior. It felt unreal, like a nightmare from which I could not awaken. They admitted it. For over a month, Sarah and Brandon had been having casual sex, usually in her car after her sessions. Sarah said she needed an escape since she felt under strain. She apologized, saying it was only a physical issue, and that she didn't love Brandon. It was one thing to hear this from Sarah, but it was terrible to listen to it from my best buddy, Brandon. Brandon, who had supported me through thick and thin, had betrayed me in the most intimate way imaginable. It was like losing both of my loved ones at once. Sarah felt that her need for more intimacy justified her behavior, therefore she somehow assumed that I would strive to resolve this. She said that she had often bemoaned our lack of intimacy with me. When I merely apologized without offering any solutions, she turned to Brandon. According to her perverted reasoning, it was okay as she believed I shared her faith in him. A chilly fury descended upon me. I informed her that in 2 weeks she would receive divorce papers. She reacted violently, screaming and hurling objects in a violent outburst. As she sobbed and yelled at me, Brandon tried to intervene and take her away. She texted me an hour later, pleading for my forgiveness, and said she didn't want a relationship with little intimacy. She claimed that because she trusted Brandon and knew I did, she believed everything would work out with him. It dawned on me then that Sarah's explanations were illogical and distorted. The woman I thought I would be with for the rest of my life was no longer there. The buddy who should have supported me had been complicit in the worst betrayal by the person I loved and trusted the most. Everyone reading this, even the most ostensibly faithful spouse, can turn on you. Anyone can be the victim of infidelity. I believe that Sarah and I were ideal together. From high school sweethearts to devoted parents, We had created a life together. However, I now realize that even someone who gives you constant reassurance can lie, look you in the eyes, and make promises they don't intend to keep. Fortunately, the results of my STD screening were negative. However, the narrative did not finish there. Additionally, I performed a quick DNA test on Abby and Isaiah. Abby is not my daughter, but Isaiah is my son. I was utterly devastated by this news. Considering that Sarah and I both have blue eyes, Abby's green eyes had always bothered me. That's all I can think about now that I know the truth. Because the test serves as a continual reminder of Sarah's infidelity, I nearly regret doing it. I also find myself wondering who Abby's biological father is. Despite everything, I refuse to leave Abby or return her to her mother. I will give her the affectionate father she deserves. I began putting the pieces together. Sarah was employed at a salon an hour away when Abby was conceived. Nathaniel, one of her co-workers, had those same green eyes, and I remembered him. He even texted my wife, but she replied, "He is just a friend." We were constantly in a terrific situation at the time, so I didn't think much of it. After dropping the kids off at my parents' place, I decided to travel to the salon. Before I went, I hugged and kissed Abby, and I was delighted when she told me she loved me. I have a deep affection for Abby, but I despise Sarah. When I arrived at the salon, I discovered that Nathaniel had left around 7 months before Abby's birth, so he was no longer employed there. I realized that he was unable to cope with Sarah telling him she was pregnant. When the clerk recognized me, he gave me his address. She added that Nathaniel frequently took Sarah home after leaving work at 7 or 8 p.m. I already knew the truth, so I didn't bother to question her or confront him. I added this to the long list of betrayals because she would frequently return home at approximately 1 morning. Brandon even apologized and told me everything he knew in a text message. He said that Sarah's confession of Chania was why he expelled her. Even though I would never be his friend again, I told him to get tested and hoped he didn't have it. When he inquired about my testing, I told him the findings were negative. I have witnessed people in the past advise ex-spouses to expose their soon-to-be ex-wife for whatever illness she may have. This is all I've learned thus far, except for that. If Nathaniel is unaware of his daughter, should I notify him? I can't decide whether or not to tell anyone. I'm still determining. I never imagined that I would find myself in this predicament. Since I've heard that horrible things will happen and Abby has nothing to fear if her real father decides to enter her life at some point, I've accepted it. My daughter's birthday was celebrated over the weekend, and my family has been tremendously supportive. After taking a few days off to absorb the information I had discovered regarding Sarah's betrayal, I also had to get back to work. Some of you may find this upsetting, and I can understand that. I'm sorry ahead of time. After considering it, I agreed to let Sarah return and reside in the guest bedroom. Unless I forgive her, which I won't do, her parents didn't want anything to do with her. But I couldn't bear to let her live on the streets. She is the mother of my children and my wife. She has 3 months to find a new place to live, and I don't want anything horrible to happen to her. She can stay as long as she consents to grant me sole custody of the children and openly acknowledges that Abby is the product of her adultery and doesn't threaten the divorce or my property. I want to be clear that I'm not interested in seeing Sarah again. I no longer think she is attractive because of everything she has done. She tried to change in front of me just yesterday after leaving the shower nude and knowing I was in the adjacent room. I told her that I didn't want her and never would, and I reminded her to visit a doctor about her problem. Going back out there is the only thing I'm having trouble with right now. I haven't paid much attention to dating, but I believe it would be pleasant to at least enjoy myself when the kids are with relatives. Attempting to move on and consider a future without Sarah is an odd experience. When Sarah is served, there will be another update. She will eventually need to speak with her parents because they received the documents in the mail. Despite the chaos in her life, I'm already putting her behind me and attempting to make new friends. Sarah has been residing in my guest bedroom for over 3 weeks. My only worries are whether I'll be able to trust people again and whether having my soon-to-be ex-wife in there will cause any new partners to feel uneasy. Although this arrangement is far from ideal, it was required to guarantee the children's stability during this transition time. When her parents learned of her adultery and the circumstances surrounding Abby, they were understandably incensed. They wouldn't let me take her in unless I forgive and take her back, which is obviously not happening. There has been a strained vibe in the house. Sarah vacillates between moments of resigned cooperation and tears of regret. She knows we will firmly reject any attempt to resume our connection. Despite the emotional upheaval, I've kept things regular for Isaiah and Abby. I will protect them from as much of this upheaval as possible because they are my first priority. Sarah has consented to give me complete custody of the children. After we had a long discussion about it, she ultimately realized that it was in their best interest. Additionally, she is ready to publicly acknowledge her infidelity and affirm that Abby is the product of her affair. This will make it more likely that the divorce will progress amicably, and that I will be granted custody of the children without any issues. Regarding her health, Sarah saw a physician and underwent chlamydia treatment. She is currently taking medicine and taking the required precautions to keep it from spreading. She began therapy to deal with her problems after this entire incident served as a wake-up call for her. I wish her well on her road to rehabilitation, but I must prioritize my own health and future. The divorce process has already begun. It is now July 10th, and Sarah was served the documents on June 9th. Sarah's cooperation made the process go pretty well during multiple meetings with our separate attorneys. We've decided to distribute our assets, and she signed all the paperwork required to guarantee that I get sole custody of the children. Sarah will take her personal items and internet business, while I keep the property and my savings. We agreed that Isaiah and Abby would be less disturbed if we did this. As for Nathaniel, I thought getting in touch with him took more work. His response when I saw him in a cafe was everything but contrite. He was antagonistic and initially denied any connection to Sarah. He got defensive and accused me of trying to ruin his life after I gave him the facts. Even when a paternity test revealed he was Abby's father, it was apparent he didn't want anything to do with her. I'm more sure than ever that I must shield Abby from individuals like him after he stormed out of the cafe. I've decided to keep Abby's paternity a secret despite Nathaniel's response. She is my daughter in every aspect that counts, and I will not allow anyone to harm her. For now, she only needs to know that I am her father. If Nathaniel ever chooses to take over, we'll deal with that when it happens. It has been challenging to move on from Sarah, but I have found comfort in my work and my kids. We commemorated Isaiah's 8th birthday last weekend. I hosted a small gathering of close family and friends at my house. Seeing the happiness on his face was priceless, and it confirmed why I was doing all of this. Abby was overjoyed to assist with cake selection and decoration. We provided Isaiah with an unforgettable day, despite the underlying conflict with Sarah. Regaining trust has been one of the most challenging aspects of this trip. I'm working on it in therapy, but I frequently catch myself questioning the intentions and motives of others. My therapist has been excellent in helping me deal with my sorrow and fury, as well as the betrayal. Though it's taking a while, I'm getting better. Regarding her future, Sarah has roughly 2 months to find a new residence. She has been searching for apartments and even discovered some promising ones. It will be simpler for us all to move on if she can move out soon, which I'm hoping for. We have clearly defined borders in the interim. This may be the final update, but for now, I'm concentrating on my children, my profession, and my recovery. She knows she shouldn't cross them, and I've clarified that any attempts to resume our connection would be promptly terminated. I'm proud. After all, who could blame me for struggling to get back out there and enjoy myself? I'm managing this problem gracefully, balancing my profession, my children, and the emotional fallout. I'm eager to see what happens in the upcoming chapter. I'll continue doing what I'm doing in the interim. I'll never forget that living a good life is the best kind of retaliation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video.